Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today I'm up in the office with my headphones on. I got brown hair. I put a dent in my forehead yesterday. Brown eyes. I'm wearing my Don't Forget Flint t-shirt, and I actually want to say something about that today. Let's transition what we're thinking about with Flint as not being fixed anymore and how they're starting to really build themselves up and popping and all of that, and keep Flint in our minds as something that we need to check our water quality. We need to do things like that. But Flint ain't down on its knees anymore. It's rising up. And I just want to give a shout out to them for doing so many good things. So thank you for letting me take the time with that. And let's jump into the show. Today on the show, we've got our great friend, Rex. How you doing, Rex?
Hey, Jerry, how are you?
I'm doing great. So where are you at?
I'm in Emeryville, California right now, just across the street from Oakland.
Yeah, so we know each other from Lansing, or from Grand Ledge, maybe technically, but yeah, now you're out in Cali. How's the weather out there?
It's beautiful, sunny right now, probably mid to low 50s. I think it's supposed to get up to about 60 degrees today, so it's wonderful compared to the winters in Michigan. This is a breath of warm, fresh air.
Yeah, but I did want to point out we're sitting at 67 right now. So we're feeling really good. But it's only like the second day we even came close to this all year. So I'm sure yours is much better as a steady.
The average, right?
Yeah. So let's jump into you a little bit. Tell us about you. Where were you born and raised? Where'd you go to school? What you been doing?
I was born and raised. Well, I wasn't born in Ovid. As far as I can remember, I lived in Ovid when I was a kid. But I was born in Ithaca, Michigan.
Okay.
Since I was a little kid, I remember Ovid, Michigan, a little village, kind of between St. John's and Owasso, and grew up on a dairy farm. We had like 80 cows and, pigs and chickens and 80 acres of land. And it was just really quiet there all the time. I kind of grew up in the tool shed in a way, where all the tools were and all the equipment got fixed. When I was 13 or 14, moved to St. John's. And to me, that was a big city.
Yeah.
Looking back now, it was still a really small town, but the atmosphere changed a lot. Got new friends, moved out of St. John's when I was early 20s, 21, 22, something like that. Moved into an apartment in Lansing. And that was the first time I ever didn't have a place to work on things. It kind of drove me a little crazy. And so I got a house eventually and kind of in Lansing, and kind of built that out a little bit to have a metal workshop and have a space to build stuff.
So we're going to get into that quite a bit, I think, in the next little bit. But Nate, our friend Nate, is saying, Rex, miss you, dude.
Yeah, I miss you.
Yeah, a lot of us do miss you. And I wanted to say something. You're my second guest from Ovid, and both of you grew up on dairy farms. So
cool.
Yeah, they had a milk festival or something every year.
The Ovid Elsie Dairy Festival.
Yeah, something like
the Elsie Dairy Festival. Ovid and Elsie are both so small, they linked them together, and there's a 2-town school. So yeah.
I learned that from school closings. It was always Ovidelci was closed or whatever from the
Right.
snow. So you you're a fabricator. Is that a good way to describe your craft?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I just like to build stuff and fix things and figure out how things work. Um, yeah.
Will you tell us about that? Like tell us, what the different tools are maybe you use, how that process works, and some of the cool ass things you've built?
So, I guess it's kind of broad what I do, but I I technically consider myself a metal worker. So a lot of other things come into play. There might be woodworking as well as metalworking, but I guess in general, I'm using a welder. Taking pieces of metal, cutting them to size, drilling holes wherever they need to be drilled. Shaping, bending. Um, so let's see. There's a bandsaw for cutting the steel or aluminum or whatever. I prefer welding aluminum, but most stuff is steel that I end up working on. So yeah, I mean, it's like, it depends on what I'm doing, right? If it's sheet metal fabrication, then I might be using a brake and actually a bend brake roller machine and bending and cutting with the brake, riveting together. If I'm doing heavier steel, then I like to use a bending fork, which is basically just kind of two pegs of thick steel that are welded onto a flat plate. And, say it's like flat iron, something that's like a 1/4 inch thick by an inch wide or something like that. Then you can put it in there and just bend it and make curves and 90-degree bends and kind of whatever you want to make. So, and then the welder, which there's several different types of welding. So I prefer to do TIG welding because it looks more beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of intense process because depending on what you're doing, you're either using two hands or two hands and a foot. If you're using a foot pedal, compared to MIG welding, which is what most people probably think of when it comes to welding, and that's just using one hand with a trigger. And a gun, and the wire comes out and basically melts your pieces of metal together with some filler wire, and then that's mostly what I do as far as welding goes. But there's a lot of other stuff behind the scenes that doesn't really get thought about or talked about, which is actually the designing, and that's the hard part. Making sure that all the dimensions are going to fit right, to however many dozens of pieces you have to put together. Really drawing it up ahead of time and planning it out. That's the stuff people don't really think about. And, I consider the hard part, just because after you get through that, then you're just cutting pieces of metal and sticking them together and making sure they're straight.
And we always leaned on you a lot to help us with designing, because we always have these crazy or when you were here, we'd have these crazy ideas and want to build it, and you're thinking that's going to weigh 16 tons. You guys can't have that. You always put that thought behind it that we didn't really think a lot about. Maybe
it's hard to know the things you don't know, So it's like, it's really about like having a lot of experience. I think I didn't go to school for what I do. It never really appealed to me. I really like working hands-on and figuring out things, by doing the research at the time that it's needed. So, like I've got this old metal workbook from 1969. Doesn't have a single color photo in it, but it has some of the most beautiful hand-drawn images you've seen. And I've learned a lot of what I do through that book because the tools are accessible. compared to nowadays, people think, well, you got to draw it up on a computer, which takes a whole new skill set. You send it out and have somebody else CNC plasma cut it for you, and then you weld it together. But that's really inaccessible for a lot of people. So to me, what made the most sense to me is using tools that I can go and buy at an auction sale or something from some old guy that passed away, and make it the old school way, which might take a little bit longer, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper.
Yeah. So what I know that you've worked on cars and trailers, and you said doors earlier to me today. What are some of the cool things you've worked on that you've built? Or even maybe we wouldn't think they're cool, but like the coolest piece of work you did that was difficult or something. I don't know. Whatever you want to talk about.
There's a couple of things that I have a little bit of, I guess, extra pride about, because they're thinking outside the box, and it's also stuff that really is kind of down my road of where I want to travel. And the first one is a solar trailer that is, I made it about, it's 2017, so about 4 years ago. Made it about 4 years ago, and I made it for a guy that I met at Standing Rock, named James McGinley, and he was in an elf trike. It's a kind of an enclosed trike where the two wheels are in the front, one's in the back, and it's kind of got like an eggshell shape around the driver, or the rider, I guess. And he was pulling a little cheap, two-wheeled trailer with a sheet of 4x8 greenhouse plastic polycarbonate on top of it, with 4 100-watt solar panels on it. And he was using that to charge the battery on the trike, because it's got a motor system. And he was using that to travel across the country. So he was setting up a tent anytime he had to stop and sleep. And I saw him out there, and I talked to him for about 15 minutes, and he told me what he was doing. And I said, if you can make it to Michigan, I'll build you a trailer that works much better for what you're doing. And what I was thinking is, nobody wants to set up a tent every night to sleep in and sleep on the ground, because one, it takes a lot of time, and two, you're exposed to the elements. If it's raining, you have to set up in the rain, you have to take it down in the rain, that type of thing. It just makes life a little bit of a nightmare. So he ended up making it out that next summer, and I built this trailer. So it's about 7.5 feet long, something like that, and about 42 inches wide and about 2 feet high. And that had a hinged lid. So the hinge was in the front of the lid, and you could lift it up and kind of lift it up like that. And this was all like a canvas material. So you could prop it up and you could stand up in the thing. And it gave him room to add another 200 watts of solar, so he could sleep in it. It had like a tailgate on the back, so you drop the tailgate down and you could just kind of slide into it even when it's closed, because obviously when you're riding it would be in the down position. But he used that and used it until about 2 months ago, and then something happened and the elf caught on fire, and it ended up going to the trailer, and the trailer caught on fire. But during the time that he had it, he gave me a lot of feedback, and I learned a whole bunch about what it really would need. But to me, that was kind of like a little bit of a jump for me, and like a little bit of a revolution for me to actually go and build this trailer, this idea that I've kind of had. Like, how can you get across the country using solar power and make it fun and make it free, essentially? Because not quite free, because sometimes things break and you got to fix them, but much, much cheaper and funner and slower pace. So that's probably my first really enjoyable, forward-thinking project that I worked on. And I mean, there's a lot to think about, I guess, but that's kind of a big one. And then the other that just kind of comes to mind is
Oh
Yvonne's
yeah.
new trike. She's got a rad trike, and it's the style with like the dump box on it, kind of like a mini truck box that can dump.
Hmm.
And I built a cage to sit on top of that. I rebuilt the whole thing, and so it's got like a cage box that sits on top of that, and you can take it off if you want to, so you can use it as a bed still. But on top of that is a pair of solar panels that help to charge that battery on that vehicle as
Yeah.
well. And so the utility in having something that can basically just be used, it's outdoors, whenever she's out with it, it's getting sun power. So she shared with me that I think she's getting at least double the range that she would get, 2 or 3 times the range that she would get normally. And it's just by adding, a few $100s worth of solar and a charge controller to help feed the battery.
Okay.
So to me, that's kind of like, that's the stuff that really piques my interest and keeps me happy.
And I just want to make one, add a little more detail to what you said. That's Yvonne with Go Green Trikes here in Lansing, Michigan, for anybody that keeps up with that, or if you don't know Go Green Trikes, look it up.
Right.
I remember you talking about both those projects and being proud of them. I like that you use the word proud. The quality is the pride of the master craftsman, and you've kind of been I was in that world for a while when I was in manufacturing, but you've kind of been the epitome or microcosm of that master craftsman I think about whenever I say that phrase. I don't know if you know that or not.
I appreciate that.
So yeah, I got a lot of respect for what you've done and how you do it. And let's lead into Sunrise Solar trailers.
Sure.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. But one more thing before I forget, I'm going to mention, if anybody's interested in checking out that first trailer that I talked about, you can find it on the internet, wizardmetalworks.carbonmade.com. And you can see the version 1. It's kind of more simple version, and then the version 2, really the version 1.2 trailers. So there's a lot of cool details in there if anybody's interested. So Sunrise Solar Trailers it's kind of like the next step in evolution, as far as I can see it. It's like what really makes the most sense in moving ourselves away from needing to use gas or even to plug in. And so, this idea started out actually as a bike trailer, a solar bike trailer idea. And the idea was to have a trailer that you could run cross country in, and you could sleep in it. And you could use the solar energy generated by the panel, the solar system on top, to charge your electric bike. Or you could also get with a battery on board and hub motors in the wheels. So you could basically attach it to a normal standard bike, and you could use that normal standard bike, and it feels like a normal standard bike, except the trailer propels itself. So it basically takes all the weight of the trailer and removes it essentially from your bike. So you could travel at, 16, 20 miles an hour, pull in a load that might be 250 pounds, and that load weight is offset by the solar energy coming in that's helping to propel that trailer. So that's what I wanted to do. And, I had some input, people telling me that basically there's not going to be that many people that are interested in it, which is fine to me because it would be a niche product anyways. But it's also made me kind of think in a more broad term, like what is the most useful thing that I could do with my time for the majority of people? Like how could we move that idea into something better? And so recently there's been as of late 2019, this company called Aptera Motors, came back out with their new 3-wheeled car, which this idea came around in the, 2008, 2009, but they had some issues with funding and stuff like that, so it fell through. But they came back, they repurchased their what do they call it? Their proprietary information from the Chinese firm that bought it from them in the first place. And they came out with a car that has solar on top, and it's so efficient that you can get about 40 miles of electricity input per day just using the solar. So just having it parked in the sun. And so building off that idea, I really wanted to make it so that I or anyone else, if this turns into a thing, could hook a trailer up to it. The trailer would have obviously a lot more solar on it than the bike trailer, but essentially, so the trailer offsets its own energy usage by being pulled by the car by how much sun is hitting it, and it being extremely aerodynamic. So the idea is to have a very aerodynamic carbon fiber, super lightweight trailer that can pop up. So it'd be low-ish to the ground, but shaped pretty teardropped. And it could pop up, and that pop-up could actually kind of go like this. And here's your car, and the hatch on the car would kind of meet the top of the trailer.
Yeah.
So, and then you could enclose that trailer and the car together and have like a whole system, because the Aptera has a camping package, and it's basically like kind of like a tent. So it's a hatchback design car. The hatch pops up, and it's got like a kind of a tent package by, and it's designed so that you can sleep, so 2 people can sleep in the back.
Yeah. You turned me on to that company, I think on Twitter, maybe Instagram. I don't know.
Either.
One of the two.
Yeah, I'm kind of active as one of the Aptera ambassadors. I saw the company coming back late 2019, and I was just all about it, and bugging them, asking them questions and everything. And eventually they came up with this ambassador program, and they opened that up to 50 people that were really interested in help promote the company. So yeah, as an ambassador of Aptera, I'm very vocal about it.
What's your Twitter handle so I can share that with people?
Think Fab. So ThinkFab.
Is that your Instagram too?
I think so.
I'll find it later.
I should know that.
Why are you doing all this? I know you said when you were a kid, you kind of like tinkering and all of that and working with your hands. Why the renewable? Why are you going this route? Yeah.
So I grew up, my dad had a 1954 International pickup truck with a big block 400 Pontiac engine and 13.5-inch wide tires on the back. And it was fast. And we'd go to the go-kart track and watch these go-karts fly around the corners. And so, and even before that, before we even, really got into that, my brother and I are about a year and a half apart, and we had Hot Wheels trikes, and we would race around the barn, and we would, drift. We'd slide sideways around the corners, and we'd race each other. And, going from that to, my first car and not having much money and, working on my own cars, fixing them, everything like that, I really got into the car world. And it would have been about 10 years ago. I, heard about climate change and global warming and all that. And I thought, that's rubbish. It's just a bunch of garbage. And, I'm like, maybe I should look into this. So I started looking into it and found that no, it's actually real. It's a big deal. And I'm part of the issue. So that changed my whole focus on life and what I'm doing. I mean, I had a whole group of friends that were into cars. I mean, a whole life that was all about car stuff. And I pretty much just dropped everybody. I'm like, I got to change. Like, this isn't me. What I want is to have a good future. I want anyone after me to have a good future and not have to think about, relocating or something all the time because of catastrophic stuff. So that turned me on to Tesla, and I started really looking into EVs. And, the more I thought about it and the more I looked into it, the more sense it makes. And so I'm also an explorer, and I love to go find new places, and I love nature. I love being out in the wild. And so there's been like this long quest of getting to this point of, how do we have an EV that I can guarantee is being charged by the sun? And you kind of can't if you're plugging into the infrastructure. You really can't. The only way to guarantee that is to have your own solar. So Tesla with the Model 3 said they were going to put solar on it, and I was all excited. I put $1,000 down on the pre-order, expecting it to have solar, and then Elon Musk announced that it wasn't going to have solar, and I got really frustrated and upset, and I pulled my pre-order. And I'm like, if nobody's going to do this, I'm going to do it myself. And I started actually planning and designing my own solar electric vehicle, modeled after one of the solar team, actually technically after all three of the solar team Eindhoven solar racers that they raced through Australia for the World Solar Challenge. So I was trying to design that, and then Aptera came out, and I'm like, thank God somebody's going to do it. This is going to cost me like $80,000 to $100,000 just to build one car, if I'm lucky. So, what I wanted to build was something that I could sleep in, something that has seating for at least 4 people, where the back seats could be removed and it could be kind of converted to like a sleeping lounge area. But since Aptera is not going that route, and I really don't want to build my own car from scratch, that's where the camper kind of evolved. That's what the camper evolved into from the solar bike camper.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Hey, you want to give a shout out to our friends at Sunrise? I can see the top of their logo on your shirt.
Yeah, that's a big deal. One of the first events that Sunrise had, I tried to pull together at the Fledge back when it was in Grand Ledge, as I'm sure. Yeah. So yeah, that's that whole group of people. I'm so thrilled to see that happening, seeing young people like jump to the cause and pull them together. If that kind of thing didn't happen, we'd be in a lot worse shape, I'm sure. We might not even have gotten the election results that we got this last round. And they're just doing amazing things. I'm super thrilled and super grateful for all their efforts.
Yeah, and I'm super grateful for that too. But I'm really grateful that you introduced us to them so early on there, and they come here all the time. They just had an art build about a week ago here, and still loving it. And we're still trying to do our best implementing the Green New Deal ourselves, with or without everyone.
Right.
So, yeah, you brought that into our lives. I'm very grateful for it. So, what's something you do every damn day to push your mission forward towards this?
It actually starts at the end of the day. The thing that I do every damn day, or close enough to it. When I lay down to sleep, a lot of the time what I do is I kind of visualize in my head, when my eyes are closed, I kind of visualize what it is that I'm planning on building, and I try to optimize and make the product better. And so I'll often go to sleep while thinking about, all the nuts and bolts and how everything's going to fit together in this trailer idea or whatever it is that I'm working on to move that forward.
Does that perpetuate it into your dreams? Do you dream about it a lot, or
not a lot? No,
wow.
I wish, because it's a lot easier. I have, and it's a lot easier to get a great perspective when you're dreaming about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I love it when I dream about my problems, but I don't do it as much as I would like to. So
yeah, it's great.
Or my challenges, I guess. Speaking of which, we daisy chain these shows together, and yesterday on the show we had Victoria Meadows from Leap, and she passes a question to you, and her question to you is, what's been your biggest challenge throughout this journey to where you're at right now?
Probably my own confidence in the product becoming reality. I think it's really hard when you have some grand idea that is years in the making, and thinking about all of what it's going to take to pull so many different things together to make it into reality. That's probably been my biggest challenge. There's a lot of legwork that has to be done, even to just start a prototype.
Yeah. How do you think you're doing? Because I think that it was daunting 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, and I think that's part of like falling asleep thinking about how to make it better. And yeah, maybe 2 years it was daunting. And I mean, you wanted me to do this for a while, I think. I know you've asked me, and I'm like, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And a lot of it is just thinking about, or rather moving through the prototypes and the challenges and the issues with anything that happened previous, with my previous trailer builds and stuff like that. I also have another trailer build that I didn't even talk about, but moving through the issues, the things that didn't work out, it's like just optimization. Like, how do I make it so that whatever problems arose before aren't going to happen in the next round? And I think I'm a lot further ahead than I was 2 years ago, and to the point where really I'm comfortable right now. If somebody wanted to hand me $50,000 to make a prototype, I know exactly what I'm going to go out and buy in order to put all the pieces together.
That's amazing. You've done a great job, Rex. Tomorrow on the show, I have Kelsey. She's I don't know her well. I'm going to get to know her on the show. She's a poet, an artist, an activist. What question would you like me to ask her for you?
I'd like to know, what is her morning routine?
All right.
From waking up to finishing breakfast or something like that. Like, what's the thought process? What's the morning routine?
All right. I'd like it a lot. Nobody's ever asked that question, but several people have answered it. Like like what pops you out of bed? Well, right. Whatever. But you told us about your night routine. What's your morning routine?
Yeah. I wake up, and I like to sleep in a little bit. So I'll sleep in a little bit, maybe like 20, 30, 40 minutes, something like that, depending on how I'm feeling, and snuggle with my honey, and get out of bed, come upstairs, get the hot water going for the coffee. And I've got these amazing pancakes that are gluten-free and totally a scratch-made recipe that my honey helped put together. It is basically formulated from her ideas, but the most amazing pancakes you've ever had, that's for sure. And I'll put that to anybody that wants to, have a match on best pancakes. So yeah, have some great pancakes and some great coffee and start the day.
It sounds amazing. Is there anything we forgot to talk about that you really would like to get out there?
I think the main thing probably for me is I wish there was an easier way to help people with ideas with funding. And maybe there is, and I just don't know about it. But I guess I wish there was an easier way that's just more upfront, where people had like whatever kind of help that they needed in pushing their ideas forward, especially in the area of renewables and sustainability, something that we all know we need to move forward very, very rapidly. I feel like there's no time left, and we just need to take our ideas and implement them, put them into motion, and start using less CO2.
We need some DAOs, these decentralized autonomous organizations that are using crypto to back projects like that are completely renewable.
Yes.
You should get your GND guys working on that.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I added a question recently. What's happiness to you, and are you happy?
I am happy. Happiness to me is knowing that the future is a bright one. And, I think we can have a lot more people would have more happiness if they could see out into the future and not be overwhelmed. I think, and to that point, there's kind of a limited amount of people who are going to be able to tackle those overwhelming situations. So yeah, to me, it's like happiness is looking into the future and not thinking that you're not feeling like you're chewing on glass, I guess.
Yeah. I love it. I love that answer. Usually I ask someone to take us out with something. You want to take us out? You kind of did two really great things. Now I'm going to ask you for a third. I feel like I'm getting greedy. Take us out with something.
Yeah, take us out. I guess I just want people to not doubt themselves. If they think they have a great idea, they should do everything they can, especially if it's going to help the planet and help people. They should do everything that they can to bring that idea forward. Not be too afraid to voice it. I know I personally have had lots of issues with confidence, self-confidence in taking my ideas and bringing them forward. But I got to say, the more I do that, the more I feel heard, and the more I realize that I wish I would have done it sooner.
Yeah.
And also, thank you for having me on.
Of course.
And thank you for pressing me, and not really pressing me, but encouraging me, I should say, in the past to do this.
I hope you always saw me in your corner.
Absolutely did.
So
yes.
We think you're a badass. We love you so much, and thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks, Jerry. Love you guys. Love all you guys over at the Fledge. You're doing great work.
Thank you. So tomorrow, 2 p.m. every damn day, and we will see you all later. Thank you so much, Rex.